ஹலோ பிரேம், மைக் ஆன் பண்ணு.
தலைவா முதல்ல இருந்து ஆரம்பியாயோ?
டேய் பிரேம், நீ நடத்திட்டு இருக்கேன்னு தெரியுது. யார் பேஜ் நம்பர் சொல்லு. பேஜ் நம்பர்
வந்து 1152.
1153. Okay. First we'll see about introduction. It is the weight of the liver is 1.7 kilogram. It is covered with the Glisson's capsule. Okay, thin capsule and with visceral peritoneum and all, but the posterior surface of the liver is termed the bare area. Okay, let's come to the ligament and the peritoneal reflections. Mainly about 4 peritoneal reflections. One is left triangular ligament and the right triangular ligament, and number 3 is the falciform ligament, and number 4 is the peritoneal reflection between the stomach and the liver. Okay, this is usually used to forget. This is also there is a peritoneal reflection. Okay, it's between the stomach and the liver. Okay, is very important. So first we'll see about the left triangular ligament. So left triangular ligament, it's dividing the anterior and the posterior dividing the anterior posterior fall of this ligament. Okay, this is a liver. Okay, dividing the left side, dividing the left and anterior ligament allows the left lobe to be mobilized from the diaphragm and the left lateral wall of the inferior vena cava. Just remember, it allows the left lobe to be mobilized from the diaphragm first thing, and the left lateral wall of the IVC. Okay, here present, it will be present your IVC back side. So if we are dividing this ligament, it will come to near to your lateral wall of the IVC. Okay, left IVC, outside of the IVC. So just remember, that's it. Then falciform ligament is a remnant of the umbilical vein. Okay, MCQ. Okay, umbilical vein. So dividing the superior leaves of the falciform ligament allows exposure of the suprahepatic IVC. Okay. So if you divide the superior leaves of the falciform ligament, it will allow you to the suprahepatic IVC. So they indirectly may giving to this area. Okay, the suprahepatic IVC. This is also covered by the falciform ligament. Okay. So if you cut the falciform ligament, you can reach the suprahepatic IVC. So next come to the liver blood supply. So liver blood supply. Okay, the liver blood supply of the liver is unique. It's 80% by the portal vein and 20% by the hepatic artery. Okay, so what is the most common anatomical variation? So anatomical variation you have to see is a right hepatic artery. Actually you have to see the anatomical variation of the accessory. Okay, there are two this size there. Okay, right hepatic artery is there. Okay, so one is accessory and another one is the aberrant. Okay, so aberrant is the most common. Okay, aberrant right hepatic artery is the most common. Okay, so and is mainly arising from the SME. Okay, likewise the aberrant left hepatic artery also there, that is arise from the left gastric artery. Okay, so this main thing, the MCQ here is they will ask about the course of this aberrant right hepatic artery. Okay, this vessel passes posterior to the uncinate process, first point. Okay, and the head of the pancreas, and runs to the liver on the posterior wall of the bile duct. Is very important. This runs posterior to the uncinate process and head of pancreas, and runs to the liver on the posterior wall of the bile duct. Okay, very important. They will ask, they will confuse this is the anterior right side, left side, and okay, this is a posterior wall of the bile duct is going on. And it is similar like that. Your left hepatic artery, aberrant left hepatic artery, this runs between the lesser curvature of the stomach and the left lobe of the liver in the helicerometer. Okay, between the lesser curve of the stomach and the left lobe of the liver in the stomach. This is very easy, but you have to remember this the posterior to the bile duct. Okay, for right aberrant right hepatic artery. Likewise, there is aberrant cystic artery is there. Aberrant cystic artery is mainly from the GDA. Just remember. So structures in the hilum of the liver. In that, the important forgetting point is the portal vein. Okay, the portal vein arises from the confluence of the splenic and the spherical centriole, begins the neck of the pancreas. It has some important tributaries, including left gastric vein, which is joined just above the pancreas. So the left gastric vein, where is it will drain means it will drain to the portal vein, just above the pancreas. Just remember. Okay, then division of the structures at the hilum. So the left duct has a longer extrahepatic course of approximately 2 centimeters. So which duct is very longer? So left hepatic duct is very longer. So that if any intervention, if you are doing in the hepatic duct, you have to do in the left hepatic duct. Okay, mainly. Okay, it is very long extrahepatic course. Okay, and the portal veins gives off the two large branches to the right lobe, which are usually outside the liver for a short length. Okay, before giving a left portal vein branch that runs behind the left hepatic duct. Okay, just remember. So portal vein that is giving two large branches to the right lobe. Okay, that is our right and middle. Okay, which are usually outside for a short length. Okay. So next to venous drainage of the liver. So venous drainage of the liver, the inferior hepatic veins are short vessels that pass directly between the liver parenchyma and the anterior wall of the IVC. So which wall of the IVC they will ask is between the anterior wall of the IVC and the liver parenchyma. So inferior hepatic vein. Okay. Anterior wall of the IVC. The IVC can be mobilized fully from the retroperitoneal tissue. And in the healthy state, there are no large vessels in the tissue plate. Okay. So segmental anatomy of the liver. So segmental anatomy of the liver, we already know the points. Here, the summary parts of 65.1 we have to know about. It has dual blood supply, same only 20% from the hepatic artery, 80% from the portal vein. Okay. You have to know about the Cantley strain. The Cantley strain, the Bailey is telling different things. Okay, it is between the gallbladder fossa and the middle hepatic vein they are telling. Okay, but the other books are telling that it is between the gallbladder fossa and the IVC. Okay. It is telling the gallbladder fossa and the IVC. Okay, but Bailey is telling between gallbladder fossa and the your middle hepatic vein. Okay, remember the thing. So then hepatic lobule. So what is the functional unit of the liver segment is liver lobule. Okay, the functional segment is liver lobules. Okay, remember the embryology. So embryology you have to remember about three things. Okay, so where your hepatocyte and intrahepatic ductal cells are formed. The hepatocytes and the intrahepatic ductal cells are formed by endodermal cells, endodermal bud, which is from the foregut structure. Okay, actually liver is a foregut structure, first MCQ. Okay, and these hepatocyte or intrahepatic ductal cells are formed by endodermal cells, and which forms your liver sinusoids. The liver sinusoids are formed by vitellian and umbilical veins. Okay, so vitellian or umbilical veins forms liver sinusoids, and which forms your hematopoietic cells and Kupffer cells. Hematopoietic cells and Kupffer cells are formed by the mesoderm of the septum transversum. So mesoderm of the septum transversum forms your hematopoietic and the Kupffer cell. Okay, and liver sinusoid is formed with the vitellian vein and umbilical vein. So and your hepatocyte and intrahepatic ductal cells are formed with the endodermal cells. Okay, so liver is a foregut structure. So remember, all are MCQs. Okay, so then it comes to your acute and chronic liver failure, LFT. So first we'll see about the LFT. So women will survive only for 24 to 48 hours in the aneuphatic state, despite full support therapy. Okay, so this is 24 to 48 hours very important. Okay, then you see the routine lab value for bilirubin. Bilirubin 5 bilirubin, ALP, AST, everything they are giving. In that you have to see bilirubin is given in the micromole per liter. It is 5 to 17 micromole per liter. Okay, and the ALP is 35 to 130 international unit. Okay, that ALP, AST, ALT, GGT, everything given in the international unit. Okay, so ALP is, you have to remember about 40 to 120. I remember like that. Okay, 40 to 120. Okay, and this is 40. Like that I remember. So 40, 40, 40, 40, 40. You remember 120. So ALP, AST, ALT, and the gamma glutamyl transferase is also around 50. Okay, 50, and albumin also 50. Okay, and this prothrombin time is given 12 to 16.
Albumin you should remember.
Yeah,
because in child biog they gave this value only 35 like that. So we used to remember 3.5 only, but 35 to 50 gram per liter you remember. And also bilirubin also you remember 5 to 17 millimoles. Because these two things they included in CTP.
Micromoles, sir.
அதான் CTP ல இத வச்சு தான் பேஸ் பண்ணி கிரியேட் பண்ணிருக்காங்க.
Okay. So next one is your ALP. PT என்ன கொடுத்திருக்காங்க? PT என்ன கொடுத்திருக்காங்க அதுல? சைல்ட் குட் ஸ்கோர்ல
அது 1 பாயிண்ட் ரேஞ்ச்ல PT INR வச்சு கொடுத்திருக்காங்க.
INR வச்சு கொடுத்திருக்காங்க. Okay, so the ALP mainly for the cholestatic, it's particularly elevated in cholestatic liver diseases or biliary obstruction. AST and ALD is mainly for acute cellular hepatocellular damage, and EGT is for acute alcohol injection. Okay, then this is your MCQ. The standard method of monitoring liver function test in patient with chronic liver disease. Okay, so what is the standard method of monitoring? So you have to use three things: bilirubin, albumin, and prothrombin. Okay, so bilirubin, albumin, prothrombin. Okay. And which is first to decrease in case of chronic liver disease, which is the first to decrease in case of chronic liver disease? Albumin. Albumin will be first to decrease, and which is the second next one to decrease is the prothrombin. So this they can ask us MCQ. Albumin is first one to decrease. The acute liver disease, the cause of acute liver disease. So in early stages, no objective sign. In severe stages, clinical jaundice may be associated with the neurological signs of liver failure. So these are the causes of the acute liver failure. In that, you have to notice about what the viral hepatitis, ABCD, everything, no thing only. What do you see about the drugs? What are the drug reactions? So see halothane, isoniazid rifampicin, antidepressants, and NSAIDs, and valproic acids, and paracetamol. Okay, these are the drugs they are causing, and mushroom poisoning. So, and you have to see about acute Budd-Chiari syndrome. Budd-Chiari syndrome also is present as acute liver failure in case of acute stages, and in metabolic liver diseases, Wilson disease is most common. Okay, so Wilson's disease you have to remember, and fatty liver, even fatty liver of pregnancy is acute. Okay, normal fatty state hepatitis is not acute, and fatty liver of pregnancy is acute. Okay, and you have to see the treatment of the acute failure. The overall mortality is 50%. Okay, so next, you have to see about this is a King's College criteria for the paracetamol, non-paracetamol induced. The paracetamol induced, you have to remember about pH less than 7.3 for the paracetamol. Okay, if paracetamol is present, if only pH is present, it is enough. Okay, irrespective of the grade of encephalopathy. Or you have to see about PCE. Okay, the PCE means PT greater than 100 second. So everyone thinks that the paracetamol will affect liver. Okay, will think like that. Okay, paracetamol is a hepatotoxic, but here you have to see about the creatinine level. Okay, the paracetamol they are mainly creatinine level. Okay, so creatinine more than 300, the grade 3 or 4 encephalopathy is mainly for the paracetamol. And in case of non-paracetamol induced, you have to use either this PT more than 100 is enough, or any three of the following any three out of these 5. So age less than 10, more than 40. Now etiology non-A, non-B, halothane and idiosyncratic drug reactions, so more than 7 days jaundice before encephalopathy. Okay, this non-A, non-A means non-hepatitis A, B, non-hepatitis B. So it should not be hepatitis A, hepatitis B. Okay, and okay, like that they're telling. Okay, and PTANR, PT more than 50 seconds. Okay, here they give only 100 seconds, more than 100 seconds is okay. If it is not there, they are giving more than 50 seconds, and here they are using bilirubin more than 300. So usually they will confuse this thing only. So paracetamol usually having creatinine value more than 300, and non-paracetamol having bilirubin value. Okay, the things are important. Everyone knows, I think. So next, chronic liver disease. Chronic liver disease, the lethargy and weakness are the common feature. Okay, lethargy and weakness are the common irrespective of the underlying cause. Okay, so these often precede clinical jaundice. Okay, so other features are high cardiac output, large pulse volume, low blood pressure. The known points only. The main thing is the skin changes. The skin changes are spider nevus, cutaneous vascular abnormalities, that blanch on pressure, palmar erythema, and white nails. The white nail also will come under liver failure. These are the signs of liver failure. Okay, then next we go to the what is the important MCQ. The most useful sign is the flapping tremor. Okay, so flapping tremor. So what is the late feature? So most common signs are flapping tremor, much late is the ascites late feature. So in the summary box, I have summarized everything. So lethargy and weakness is the most common feature. First MCQ. So most common feature in case of chronic disease is lethargy and weakness. So then next comes your what is the most useful sign? The most useful sign is a flapping tremor. Okay, where we'll see in the hepatic encephalopathy. And what is our late feature? Late feature is ascites. So 3 MCQs. So most common feature lethargy and weakness. Most useful sign flapping tremor, and late feature in CLD is ascites. Okay. Okay, and see the other features. This other features we already know everything. Can only repeat. And then we have to say how to quantify the severity of the chronic liver disease. The severity of the chronic liver disease, we have to see the glucose for CTP MELD. Okay, so first you have CTP. Initially why they discovered CTP is to assess the risk of the patient in the shunt surgery. So this is first MCQ. And second MCQ is modified CTP is to predict mortality after any surgery. So first CTP is only for shunt surgery to assess the mortality, predict the mortality. Then modified CTP to predict the mortality after any surgery, and the MELD is for TIPS. Okay, 3 MCQs. Okay, CTP is for shunt, modified CTP for any surgery, and the MELD is only for TIPS surgery to assess the predict the mortality. So next, your MELD score is having CBI. Okay, that having the mnemonic CBI. So creatinine, bilirubin, INR. So surgery in the presence of chronic liver disease. Okay, so before doing any surgery in the chronic liver disease, you have to see about the CTP score. So CTP score, based upon the CTP score, they are assessing a surgical mortality rate. CTP-A is having a 10%, B is having 30%, and C is having 80%. So 10, 30, 80. So ABC. So 10%, 30%, 80%. Okay. Okay. So this is surgical mortality, and you have to know this value. The MELD score also correlated with the operative mortality with a 1% increase for each MELD point up to 20, and with a further 2% for each point above 20. Okay. So what is a MELD score? Then what is your usual MELD score? The MELD score ranges from 6 to 40. Okay, 6 to 40. Okay, less than 14, you have to put the patient in the waiting list for liver transplantation. So if it rises, okay, up. See, MELD score also correlated with the operating mortality with 1% increase for each MELD point. So up to 20, 1 point increasing up to 20, the mortality rate increases up to 1%, 1%. Further, 2% for each point above 20.
No,
Okay.
if the MELD score is 20, mortality is 20%.
20%, yes. Oh. No.
Yes. 1% increase for each MELD point up to 20. So if the point is 20, then mortality rate is 20%.
If they ask MELD
like
is 30. No, if they ask MELD 30 na, so up to 20 you have to take up 20%. Then after 10 for 10, 20. So total 40% risk.
Yeah, 40%. About 20, having a 2% increase. Okay. So the next imaging of the liver. The imaging of the liver, before that you have to see the CTP score. The CTP score pneumonia is a BAPI. Okay, and in that everyone knows, I think I don't need to repeat. The CTA is 5 to 6, 7 to 9, and 10 to 15. So let's remember the middle point. Okay, the middle point. So bilirubin is equal to 34 to 50. Okay, 34 to 50. Remember, less than 34, more than 50. So 25 to 35, less than 25, more than 35. Okay, just correlate the points. And the acidity should be initially controlled, and the grade 1 or 2 for encephalopathy, and 1.7 to 2.2 for ANR. Okay. And the imaging of the liver, this is where they will ask what is the first aid investigation in case of liver pathology is ultrasound. So if you are planning for anatomy, which gives anatomical planning for the liver surgery, spiral CT. Just remember spiral CT. Spiral CT gives for anatomical planning for the liver surgery. Okay, and alternative is MRI. The next is first line non-invasive cholangiography. Directly they will ask like MRCP. Everyone knows. Okay, then ERCP is for endoscopic intervention is anticipated. Okay, when ERCP is not possible or failed, you can go for biliary tract imaging using PTC. So this is the order: MRCP, ERCP, PTC. Okay, this is order. And the vascular involvement is CV angiography and tumor spread PET scanning. Okay. And the laparoscopy to detect peritoneal tumor spread in the superficial liver mets, you have to use laparoscopy ultrasound. This is your ultrasound picture shows the acoustic shadow for multiple liver stones. So next page, okay, 1158. Just to see the contrast enhanced ultrasound. Okay, this is very important, which implies a transient intravascular bubbles. This bubble is very important. So how to assess the contrast enhanced ultrasound process they will ask. So you have to see the bubbles to delineate normal liver parenchyma from the solid tumor. Okay, so which has significantly increased the sensitiveness specificity of the ultrasound scanning. Okay, and CT is the currently the most widely used and the best validated modality for liver imaging. And MRI, which is the investigation used to detect small liver mets. Okay, they will ask like this question. This is MRI. Okay, and this is our CT showing liver tumor in the right lobe. Okay. So next year, if you are using MRI with the contrast, okay, it is better for differentiating small SCC from regenerative nodules. So that's why they are telling in diagnostics, even more than 2 centimeter. If you are finding in ultrasound hypoechoic lesion, you can directly go with the CT. That is confirmatory for SCC. Okay, if in 1 to 2 centimeter, you have to do 2 investigations, CT plus MRI. Okay. So they're telling. So then direct endoscopy colonoscopy. Previously they were used to mother and baby ERCP colonoscopy. Okay, what is the disadvantage on this one? You need 2 endoscopists. to undergone this colonoscopy, and we can only visualize. Okay, but recently they are using is a new spyglass colonoscope. The spyglass colonoscopy, what is advantage is the single operator is enough. Okay, and it can also use to take biopsies, and you can use interventions also using this spyglass colonoscopes. Okay, this is recent advance. Spyglass is recent advance. So directly target biopsies improve the diagnostic yield to greater than 80% in patients with the intermediate biliary stitches. Okay, just a fact. Okay, greater than 80%.
One more advantage in spyglass is you also visualize the second and third order duct.
Okay.
Original condition only you have to visualize the first order, like that.
Okay. Here is using common necklace. Here we are using second and third order also, and is used for interventions also. So endoscopic ultrasound, extra hepatic biliary tree, including internet lymphadenopathy at the porta hepatis and the porta aortic regions. It used to evaluate these things. Okay, at the hilum, it's very useful, and E is also the most sensitive tool for diagnosing small duct calculi. Very important MCQ. So which is used for as most sensitive for diagnosing small bile duct calculi is EUS. Okay, so PTC is mainly used to guide external drainage of the obstructed bile duct to relieve jaundice and then evaluate resectability and direct stent incision. Okay, so angiography is only for therapeutic intervention. Okay, for the occlusion of the AV malformation, embolization, and the TACE. For the purpose of TACE, they are using angiography. So PET scan. So this is your previous need assess question. So they asked the full form of PET. Okay, actually they gave 18F, 19F, 20F like that. Okay, this 18F 2, everything is 2 only. 2D. Okay, 2 fluoro, 2 deoxy, D glucose. Just remember the full form. So next one is your PET. Next page. So 1160. So PET or integrated PET CT can be used in the diagnosis of regional lymph node metastasis and distant metastasis. Okay, so this investigation is useful for regional lymph node metastasis, PET or integrated PET CT. Again, laparoscopy. So laparoscopy is useful for staging of primary hepatobiliary pancreas cancer. This is mainly useful for the staging. So when biopsy should be needed? The biopsy.
Regional lymph nodes best is endoscopic ultrasound illa PET.
So the best is EES only. Okay, best is EES only. Regional lymph node can be useful only. PET integrated can be useful for diagnosis. Okay.
Okay.
And biopsy. You see the biopsy. So routine biopsy is not actually routine biopsy is usually not needed. So there is no role of routine laparoscopy in patient with colorectal liver mets. Just remember. Okay. Do the points. So whenever you can diagnostic dilemma and whenever the patient is unable to operate, then only you have to take biopsy in liver CC. So then you see about the liver trauma. The important points are the liver is the second most common organ injured in the abdomen after spleen. Okay, so which is more blunt or penetrating? Blunt is very high. Okay, blunt injuries are more common. Okay, then summary works known points only. Okay, and diagnosing of the liver injury. So when the patient like your laparotomy, okay, under thoracotomy, okay, where indication for laparotomy just to see. So when there is a pre-intraperitoneal fluid and fast, okay, under hemodynamic instability, and the patient with the penetrating will require a laparotomy or thoracotomy once active resuscitation is underway. Okay, then 1161, page number 1161. Next point is initial management of the liver injuries. So first you have to resuscitate. First you have to maintain the general condition of the patient. Okay, you have to at least ready the blood, at least 10 units of blood. You have to give a cross match. Okay, so but the MCQ is you have to see the coagulation profile of the patient. Okay, to evaluate this acute loss of clotting factors, and the factors should be given empirically aided with the result of TEG. So TEG monitoring is very important. So this is expected MCQ. So normal TEG is this is your normal TEG, and this is your R time. Okay, this based upon this time only we are differentiating the other things. So you see, this is very long. This time is very long. so that they are making this is normal. Okay, the time is very long, then that's why we are making the delayed. This is delayed clotting. Okay, so and see, this is a strength. This is a strength of the clot. The width is a strength of the clot. Here the width is reduced. That's why they are telling reduced.
That is
clot.
mean amplitude.
Mean amplitude.
Mean amplitude reduced means reduced clot strength.
Okay.
Then
is a reduced,
this thing LY30, LY60, that will tell about your clot lysis at 30 minutes and 60 minutes. Then alpha angle is there. Alpha angle is the rate of the clot formation. So R time increased, it is delayed clot formation. Mean amplitude reduced, it is reduced clot strength. Then this lysis is more, then it means that that curve will be like that, spindle shaped. Then is hypercoagulable means mean amplitude increased.
Hypercoagulability what increased?
Mean amplitude increased, no?
No. In hypercoagulable, R is increased. I mean, short.
R is also short. This also.
And this also increased, but R.
In the TEG, which is mainly used to see the clot strength. Clot strength.
MA. Maximal amplitude, mean amplitude and MA.
Maximum amplitude.
Maximum amplitude.
Okay, just to remember this diagram. Just remember the diagram and these are the many times they ask for this MCQs. Okay, and this you have to see about the blend trauma. So blend trauma. So what is the indication for discontinuing the
எல்லாமே சாபிஸ்டன்ல இருக்கா?
ஆமா.
ஓகே.
சாபிஸ்டன்ல ரெண்டு சாப்டர்ல இருக்கு சார். ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஷாக் சாப்டர்ல இருக்கு, அப்புறம் பின்னாடி டிராமா சாப்டர்லயும் கொடுத்திருக்கான்.
சரி, ஓகே.
ஆல்பா கே நல்லா எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணிருக்கோம்.
சரி, ஓகே நான் பாக்குறேன்.
About blend trauma. So blend trauma, what is the indication for discontinuing the conservative treatment? So these are the indication to discontinue the conservative treatment. First one is hemodynamic instability, evidence of ongoing blood loss, despite correction of any underlying coagulopathy. So even after correcting coagulopathy also, there is underlying ongoing blood loss. You have to terminate your conservative and you have to go for laparotomy. And these are the development of signs of generalized peritoneal. In that case also, you have to go for you have to discontinue conservative treatment. These known points only. What we are using in the usual ward. Okay, so on surgical approach to the trauma. The surgical approach to the trauma, you have to know about the 4P. Okay, pack, push, Pringle, plug. Okay, that they will ask. So for hepatic artery repair, you have to use 6-0 Prolene. Okay, so remember like artery, R is equal to 6. Okay, Tamil R is 6. Okay, artery R is 6. Okay, and the portal vein is a Roman letter V 5. So 50. So vein is 50 Prolene and the 6 is 60 Prolene. If bleeding persists despite flow occlusion, consider major hepatic vein or IVC injury and also look for aberrant arteries to the liver. Okay, so even after Pinkels also, if your vein is said the bleeding is mainly from the major hepatic vein or IVC or aberrant arteries. Okay, that is also you have to look for aberrant arteries to the liver. That I already told with right aberrant right hepatic, left hepatic also you have to see. Okay. So next will come into the crush injury. Next page. Okay, next page. Crush injuries to the liver also result in large parenchymal hematomas and diffuse capsular lacerations. So suturing is usually ineffective in case of these conditions. So what you have to do in case of these crush injuries with the diffuse capsular laceration and all, you should not do suturing. You should do perihepatic packing, which involves placing the packs above, behind, below. Okay, above, behind, below.
Okay. This only we saw in Sebastian flow chart. Starting thing, if the bleeding is not controlling, for minor bleeding only we'll go for suturing and this glue application, hepatography, all those things. If the bleeding is not controlled directly, you have to go for perihepatic packing only. Perihepatic packing also not controlled. 2 times we can do perihepatic packing.
Okay. Yeah. So you have to so you are doing packing and you have to keep in the ICU and you remove this pack for after 48 hours. Okay, so after this you should not do any surgical intervention. Okay, So you have to give antibiotic cover and full reversal of anticoagulopathy is usual things only. So if a major liver vascular injury is there, so if a major liver vascular injury is there, example like a hepatic vein or vena cava, grade 4 or 6, grade 5 or 6, okay, the major vascular injuries are there. At the time, what you have to do, you have to do a specialized referral center. Okay, you have to just do initial laparatomy packing and you have to referral. Okay, you have to do a referral. So what they will do in the specialist center and all, they will go for venovenous bypass. Okay, so actually the injury is mainly from this main vascular injuries like IVCs and all. So for that they will do venous bypass. Okay, so in that the Sevistan gave one bypass, name is called Schrock shunt. Okay, this is they are connecting the IVC to atrium. Okay, it's intrahepatic IVC to atrium, like that they are connecting and they are making manipulation in the IVC. Okay, just remember the Schrock shunt. Okay. And next, so warm ischemia of the liver is tolerated for up to 45 minutes. Okay, this is another MCQ, allowing sufficient time in a blood-free field of the repairing injuries to the IVC or hepatic veins. So 45 minutes is very important. Okay, so next, so after you are doing surgery post-operatively, if a biliary fistula has happened, okay, then what to do? Okay, you have to do biliary decompression. First thing, you have in biliary fistula, okay, you have to do biliary decompression. Okay, so even the biliary decompression, how to do biliary decompression? By two methods: active nasobiliary tube or PTC. Okay, or stent. Okay, nasobiliary drainage also you can use, PTC you can use, and PTC drainage or PTC stent you can do. Even if this failed, then only you have to go for liver resection and all. Okay, if it is failed, you can go for liver resection. So late vascular complication include hepatic artery aneurysm. Okay, and arteriovenous. Okay, arteriovenous or arteriobiliary fistula. Okay, so these are best treated non-surgically. Okay, this late vascular complication.
Painful hemophilia.
What?
Painful hemophilia seen in arteriobiliary fistula.
Arteriobiliary fistula, late complications like hepatic aneurysm or AV fistula or arteriobiliary fistula, these are best treated non-surgically. Okay, so the feeding vessel can be embolized transarterially. Okay, then main MCQ is this. You have to see this figure 65.12. It's aneurysm arising from the right hepatic artery. It's aneurysm. It's not a cholangiocarcinoma like that. It is aneurysm. Even you see this catheter, they are inserted. Okay, it's going inside. Okay, it's angiographic catheters. Okay, used by the interventional radiologist, where they're using where they will do a transarterial embolization and all. So just to see this one. Okay, and look, this don't put this as a cholangiocarcinoma like that. Okay, it is a hepatic artery aneurysm. Okay, and the long-term outcome of
It
the liver.
looks like cholangiogram only.
Cholangiogram.
Will confuse in that tension.
And long-term outcome of the liver trauma. So after long term, if you are seeing a segmental or lobular stricture associated with the atrophy of the corresponding area of the liver parenchyma and the compensated hypertrophy of the other liver lobe, it may be treated expectantly. So already, even if atrophy happened also, other area is already compensated. So you have to do it in a expectant management. Okay, and if a dominant extrahepatic bile stricture happened, okay, and this associated with obstructive jaundice may be treated with the endobiliary bile balloon dilation or stenting. Okay, but usually it requires a surgical correction using Roux-en-Y hepatico-jejunostomy. Roux-en-Y hepatico-jejunostomy you have to do. Then we come to the portal hypertension. So portal hypertension, just you have to see these points. Okay, hypervolemia should be avoided since this may increase portal pressure and exacerbate the bleeding. First point. Then vitamin, what are the things you have to drugs you have to give to achieve the coagulation is vitamin K. Okay, tranexamic acid. Okay, 1 gram IV. But a correction of coagulopathy will require the administration of FFP. So vitamin K, tranexamic acid, FFP also you are giving. Okay, and the treatment with a flanking vasoconstrictor, terlipressin should be started. Okay, terlipressin should be started. Okay, and when you have to treat the platelet, so when you have to treat the you see an associated thrombocytopenia is usually secondary to hypersplenism due to cirrhosis, and it's treated if the platelet count is falls below 50 into 10 power 9 per liter. Okay, so see 50 into 10 power 9. Okay, 50 into 10 power 9. It's wrong or not? I don't know.
50,000.
50,000, but per liter they are giving here, not deciliter. It comes like 50,000 only. Okay. Per liter they are giving. Okay. Just remember, for 50 into 10 power 9 per liter. So spanking vasoconstrictor terlipressin should be started, and this prophylactic antibiotic either or not, that is MCQ. So prophylactic antibiotic you have to give. Okay, it's recommended to prevent and treat associated bacterial infection. Then, as soon as the patient is pneumonia stabilized, an upper GA endoscopy should be performed to establish the diagnosis, because 50% of the patient with the portal hypertension will have non-varicose source of bleeding. Okay, so after giving this initial drugs and all, you need to go for a UG endoscopy to rule out non-varicose source of bleeding. This is the most common cause of varicose bleeding, UG bleeding. So this is your Sengstaken Blackmer tube. Okay, Sengstaken Blackmer tube. Okay, this tube should be decompressed every 12 hours to prevent necrosis. That is for first MCQ. How many hours it will decompress? 12 hours. Every 12 hours you have to decompress it, and it has two balloons, just the esophageal balloon and the gastric balloon. So what is inflated in this balloon? Next MCQ, both the balloons are inflated by air only. So esophageal, how many ml? This is 40 mm HCG. Okay, esophageal, if you are giving in pressure, the gastric balloon is ml, 300 ml, 300 ml of air, and the esophageal balloon is 40 mm HCG of air. Okay, just remember. Then endoscopic treatment of the varices. So what are the options are there? Band ligation sclerotherapy are there, which is significant. So banding is more significant. Okay, see, the banding is significantly better in preventing rebleeding, and is preferred option. Which is preferred option is banding or sclerotherapy. Banding is the preferred option. So varicose bleed will respond to single course of endoscopic treatment. So majority of the varicose bleed will respond to a single course of endoscopic treatment. It's a true or false statement. Okay, so then tips. So tips, we first we will insert the tips wire via internal jugular vein, SPC hepatic vein, and then go to the portal vein. So main yearly, so the 4 MCQ I will tell. The main yearly complication of the tips is perforation of the liver capsule. Okay, so next, what is the percentage of post-shunt encephalopathy? So post-shunt encephalopathy is 40%. Third MCQ is the main contraindication to the tips is portal vein occlusion. Okay, and fourth MCQ is what is the main long-term complication of tips is stenosis. So main long-term complication of this tips is stenosis, and this percentage is approximately 50% at 1 year. So first question is main yearly complication. So yearly complication is perforation of the liver capsule. Post-shunt encephalopathy is 40%. So main contraindication to tips is portal vein occlusion. Okay, so not your heart problems, not your hepatic vein thrombosis. Okay, so not your SVC thrombosis, like and all. Main thing is portal vein occlusion. So portal vein occlusion, if it is there, you should not do tips. Then long-term complication is stenosis, which is 50% at 1 year. Okay, so this is your figure for tips. Okay, just remember. Then we'll go about surgical shunts for the varicose hemorrhage. So here the main current indication for a surgical shunt in a patient with CTPA gradient cirrhosis. Okay, in whom the initial bleed has been control based sclerotherapy. These are the main indication. So CTP gradient cirrhosis, in which the initial bleed has been controlled with sclerotherapy, is the main indication for the surgical shunt. So long-term beta blockers, chronic sclerotherapy, and banding are the main alternatives. Beta blockers is beta blockers. What is the role of beta blockers in reducing subsequent replay bleeds? It lowers the portal pressure by combination of vasodilation and decreasing cardiac output. Okay, doing vasodilation also, by then decreasing cardiac output also. So, and reducing the risk of subsequent repeats. So main MCQ is here this indication. Okay, and we already know shunt may be selective and non-selective. The selective shunts are associated with the lower incidence of portosystemic encephalopathy. Okay, and they will ask what is the management of recurrent varicose bleed secondary to the splenic or portal thrombosis. By the time What is a recurrent variceal bleed? Okay, see, management of recurrent, not a single variceal, recurrent variceal bleed. Secondary to splenic or portal vein thrombosis, you have to go for the splenectomy and the gastroesophageal devascularization. Okay. Okay, you have to go for the splenectomy and the gastroesophageal devascularization. That is your Segura procedure. Okay. So how is the splenic vein thrombosis forming? The splenic vein thrombosis may be seen secondary to chronic pancreatitis venosus. Okay, and then portal vein thrombosis is a common complication of liver cirrhosis. Portal vein thrombosis is a common late complication of liver cirrhosis. So then you come to the variceal bleeding and orthotopic liver transplantation. So previous surgical stent greatly increases the morbidity associated with orthotopic liver transplantation. So tips would be preferred management for bleeds resistant to the sclerotherapy as long as placement is optimal. Okay. So which is very preferably is tips. Tips would be preferred management of the bleeds resistant to sclerotherapy. Just remember this thing. These are some facts only. And in ascites, okay, in ascites, and what are we found to rule out the cause of the ascites, we have to do aspiration. So what are the things? What are the laboratory test you have to give in ascites examination? Is you have to do culture and microscopy, protein content, cytology, and the amylase level also. So rule out the pancreatic ascites. So usually you will forget the amylase level. So just remember the amylase level. And for cytology, protein content, and culture and microscopy. These are things you have to do in determining the cause of the ascites. So next, your important MCQ. So intravenous contrast enhancement will allow the abdominal varices to be demonstrated and assess the patency of the portal vein. So which is used to assess the patency of the portal vein. They will ask this intravenous contrast enhancement. Okay. Intravenous contrast, yeah, that only they will use. Okay, to assess the portal vein patency. As portal vein thrombosis is a common predisposing factor for the development of ascites in chronic liver disease. So what is a common predisposing factor for the development of ascites in the chronic liver disease? Okay, it is portal vein thrombosis. Okay, portal vein thrombosis. We already know what is a contraindication for the tips is portal vein thrombosis. Main contraindication. And this is the main predisposing factor for the development of ascites in chronic disease, also portal vein thrombosis. Okay. So next, treatment of ascites in chronic liver disease. So how to treat these ascites? Okay, you have to initially you have to do additional restrict the salt intake, and you have to start diuretics. Okay, either spironolactone or furosemide. So next, one by step will come. So see that these are the treatment: salt restriction, diuretics, and abdominal paracentesis, and liver transplantation. So what is abdominal paracentesis? When you have to do abdominal paracentesis? When the drug is resistant, diuretic resistant, then only you have to go for abdominal paracentesis. It only gives a short-term symptomatic relief. So when you go for the tips in case of ascites, okay, the tips when you have to go with the intractable ascites. Okay, and tips only give symptomatic relief only, but you have to see the tips is a good alternative to repeated paracentesis. But to post-stent encephalopathy, following tips we already saw it is 40%. Okay, and the majority of the stent will stenose.
Intractable ascites, tips is the treatment.
Yeah, that is me. Okay, that is MCQ. We already saw this 2%. Post stent encephalopathy and stenosis of the stent. Okay, 50% by 1 year. Okay. Remember these 3 MCQs. Then liver transplantation for the ascites. When you have to go for liver transplantation, when the diuretic resistant ascites and is an indication for the liver transplantation if associated with the deterioration in liver function. Okay, so diuretic resistant ascites if associated with the deteriorating liver function, then you have to go for liver transplantation. So main diuretic, the patient failed to respond to diuretic, then you go for abdominal paracentesis is a temporary measure only. So ultimately the patient will go for the liver transplantation. Okay. So chronic liver condition, Budd-Chiari syndrome. Budd-Chiari syndrome is principally affecting the young female. Okay, it is acute by the hepatic venous thrombosis or obstruction of the venous webs. So this symptom is very important. So this will come later. So then next page, first you see here what the common cause is a myeloproliferative disorder or procoagulant state is commonly found such as antithrombin 3, protein C, protein S. Antithrombin 3, protein C, protein S. It's a procoagulant state they are telling. And the myeloproliferative disorder is the main cause for the Buchiari syndrome. And patient presenting in pulmonary liver failure should be considered for liver transplantation. Okay, as those with the established cirrhosis and the complication of portal hypertension. Okay, so pulmonary liver failure you have to consider for liver transplantation. So even with the established cirrhosis and the complication of portal hypertension. So established cirrhosis and complication of portal hypertension, when the patient present with the pulmonary liver failure, you have to go for liver transplantation. When the cirrhosis is not established, suppose the cirrhosis is not established, then you go for TIPS. The scenario they will ask Buchiari syndrome. Cirrhosis is established with the complication of the portal hypertension. The patient is suddenly present with the pulmonary liver failure. You have to go for liver transplantation. First MCQ. Cirrhosis is not established, then you go for TIPS. Okay, in case of IVC compressed mental, you have to go for metallic stent. Okay, and the patient should be on the lifelong anticoagulation. So next you have to see about this table, importance chronic liver conditions. Just you see the Buchiari syndrome is mainly present with ascites. They will ask. Okay, they will give pain. Okay, jaundice. I said that like that they will give options. So Buchiari syndrome will mainly present with ascites. So remember Buchiari ascites. Okay, and primary sclerosing cholangitis will present with the abnormal LFT or jaundice. Okay, and PBC. The PBC, okay, is also present as malaise and lethargy and itching. Okay, okay, before development of jaundice. After this malaise, lethargy, itching only, jaundice will happen. Okay, that is a differentiating between the primary sclerosing cholangitis and the cirrhosis. Okay, in primary sclerosing cholangitis, jaundice will form yearly. Okay, in PBC, malaise, lethargy, itching will form yearly, followed by jaundice. Any history wise, they will tell like this: the 28-year-old female present with the malaise, lethargy, itching, followed by jaundice. Then you have to go for PBC. Okay, so for initially they will, without malaise, lethargy, itching and all, they were telling only jaundice, pain. Then you have to go for PBC or PSC. Okay, so jaundice first will present in PSC. Okay, PBC is general conditions followed by jaundice. Okay, and Carolus disease, abdominal pain and sepsis, and simple liver disease is a coincidental finding and pain. Polycystic liver disease, hepatomegaly, the pain will be there. So these are the features. Then you have to see about the PSC is present in the young adult. It's both intrahepatic and extrahepatic bile ducts will be involved. So conditions usually progresses even if the diseased colon is removed. So usually it's associated with ulcerative colitis. Even if you remove the diseased colon, this PSC, primary sclerosing cholangitis, and the ankylosing spondylitis will not be relieved. Okay, just remember. So liver biopsy is required, which shows on its skin appearance in PSC. So which is more prone for cholangiocarcinoma. Okay, and gallbladder carcinoma. The PSC is more prone for cholangiocarcinoma, gallbladder carcinoma. Okay, so where you see this cholangiocarcinoma is more seen under whom a new or dominant structure is demonstrated on cholangiography, or in whom gallbladder polyps are identified. They are the more prone. Okay, and what are the diagnosis of CCA and PSC? Okay, you have to do biliary brush cytology and direct endoscopic inspection. I let it know spyglass cholangoscopy is there. Even if you use the cholangoscopy, you take the brush cytology, or you can go for direct inspection. So serum CA99 level may be increased, but the sensitivity of CA99 in detecting CCA in PSC is only about 60%. Okay, in this term 60%. Okay. So suppose what are the treatment options? What are the treatment options for PSC is the patient present with good liver function and no dominant strictures and negative biliary cytology. Okay, thus they will monitor for liver disease progression, but the only useful treatment is liver transplantation. Okay, liver transplantation you have to use, but it is give excellent result when we are doing before the development of bile duct cancer. Then only the liver transplantation result will be good. Okay. Okay, and as usual, we can use the temporary relief for jaundice. You can use biliary stenting for cholangitis and relief from the jaundice. Okay. Then we have to give about the primary biliary cirrhosis. So primary biliary cirrhosis, okay. As with the PSC, the presentation of the patient with PBC is often hidden with generation malaise, lethargy, pruritus prior to the development of clinical jaundice or abnormal liver function test. So this condition is common in the female, and the main circulating antibody, what antibody we see is anti-smooth muscle antibody is, and this is confirmed by liver biopsy. Okay, what is the test of confirmation for PBC cirrhosis? Cirrhosis will be confirmed by liver biopsy. Okay, liver biopsy, and in PSC also we have to take liver biopsy. Okay, so PSC first is radiological only. So radiologically it's enough. Okay, PSC. Okay, you have to see the chain of lake appearance and all. Okay, in PSC. But if radiology is equivocal, the liver biopsy is required. Okay. But a confirmation of test for PBC is liver biopsy. So mainstay of treatment in PBC is liver transplantation. Okay. So Carolus disease is a congenital dilatation of the intrahepatic biliary tree. So no specific treatment is available. So malignant change within the rectal system resulting in cholangiocarcinoma, which may amenable to resection. And the liver transplantation is a radical but definitely treatment. So what are the ultimate treatment options for PBC, PSC, and Carolus are liver transplantations? So simple cystic disease. Okay, simple cystic disease is generally solitary, seen in women. So it have a characteristics blue hue. Just remember, blue hue when seen at laparoscopy. Okay, and indication for surgical intervention in case of simple cystic diseases when the patient is present with the symptom rupture, hemorrhage, and infections. Okay, in case of polycystic liver disease, it is autosomal dominant women, and around half of the patient will have polycystic kidney disease. Okay, so same surgical indications for this both polycystic and the simple cyst. Okay. See, the indication for surgical intervention are broadly similar to those for simple cyst, and although the large number of lesions means that de-roofing of a single cyst is unlikely to relieve the symptom. Okay, if you just de-roofing a single cyst, it will not relieve the symptom. Known points, no need to remember. Just to remember, simple cyst, solitary, women, and blue hue at laparoscopy, and the surgical indications. Polycystic is autosomal dominant. Okay. Autosomal dominant, around half of the patient, 50% of the patient will have polycystic kidney disease. Okay, and usually the polycystic kidney disease patient will not present with the liver failure; they will present kidney failure. Okay. So liver infections, ascending cholangitis. I know about such orchestrated known points only. I don't need to remember pyogenic liver abscess, and just inhaling only the unknown points where it is not given in any guide books. Okay. So pyogenic liver abscess is confirmed by aspiration for culture sensitivity. Okay, first MCQ. The most common organisms are Streptococcus miliary and E. coli. Okay, but the enteric organisms such as Streptococcus faecalis, Klebsiella proteus also occur. So mixed growths are common. So just to remember Streptococcus miliary and E. coli. Just remember these two organisms. Okay, and is confirmed by culture sensitivity. Next, the first line antibiotic to be used. What are the first line antibiotic to be used? Are penicillin, aminoglycosis, and metronidazole. Okay, or cephalosporin and metronidazole. So you can either use penicillin, aminoglycoside with the metronidazole, or you can use cephalosporin with the metronidazole. Okay. So next comes the amoebic liver abscess. The most common presentation with amoebic liver abscess is dysentery. Okay, and it can occur. The common site of occurrence is paracecal and the liver. Okay, cecum also the amoebic liver abscess will present. Okay, paracecal and the liver, the most common site. So diagnosis is by isolation of the parasite from the liver lesion or stool, or confirming its nature by microscopy. So three things. So see how to diagnosis they are doing isolation of the parasite by doing isolation of the parasite only from the liver lesion or stool, or confirming its nature by microscopy. Okay. So hydrated liver disease. Hydrated liver disease is diagnosis suggested by the finding of a multiloculated cyst on ultrasound, and is further supported by the finding a floating membrane within the cyst on CT scan. Okay. So first we will do ultrasound. Okay, where we will see the multiloculated cyst. Further, it is supported by where will we see this floating membrane. Okay, it will be seen on ultrasound also. So mainly it will be seen on the CT scan. Okay, floating membranes. So how do we diagnose the serology? Serology diagnosis for the hydrated liver disease is using ELISA. Okay. Then the important point is, this is a very new point actually. This what they are telling is, So contamination of the peritoneal cavity at the time of the surgery with active iodide doctor should be avoided by continuing drug therapy with albendazole and adding preoperative praziquantel. Okay, so you should avoid the contamination of these the fluids by giving continuous IV albendazole infusion, continuous drug therapy, and adding preoperative praziquantel. Okay, and this should be combined with the packing of the peritoneal cavity with 20% hypertonic saline soaked packs. Okay, and instilling 20% hypertonic saline into the cyst before it is opened. So they are using 20%
No,
hypertonic
man,
saline.
should be avoided means we have to give, they are telling.
Yeah, it should be avoided. Yeah, you have to
And
give.
praziquantel. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
You have
Yeah,
to
the dye,
give this.
they will die, no. So contamination won't be there.
Huh?
Continue.
Yeah,
Nothing. It's easy point only.
Yeah. Easy point only, but this 20% hypertonics, this saline packet codes you have to remove. They will ask the percentage. Okay, 20% saline soaked packs, and they instilling the 20% saline into the system before it is opened. Okay, and the residual cavity may become infected, and this may be reduced as may bile leakage or packing the space with the pedicle greater omentum. So they will do omentoplasty also for the residual cavity. So rupture of the daughter hyded into the biliary tract and result in the obstructive jaundice or acute cholangitis. This can be treated with the endoscopic clearance of the daughter cyst prior to the cyst removal from the liver. Okay. So they give a scenario like this. Okay. After doing this rupture of the biliary, rupture of the daughter hyded into the biliary tract and result in obstructive jaundice. So how to treat? They treated by endoscopic clearance of the daughter cyst. Okay. Prior to the cyst removal from the liver. First, you have to treat this jaundice or obstructive jaundice by endoscopic method. After that, only you have to remove the cyst from the liver. In case
One more point is, you see, if doubt exists whether the cyst is active or not, it can be followed on ultrasound as active cyst gradually become larger and more superficial in the liver. So whichever cysts are larger, increasing in size, and which are bigger superficial, they are active cyst compared to the deep cyst before that rupture point.
Okay. So liver tumors. So liver tumors. So the falciform ligament is first divided. Which ligament is first divided in mobilization of liver is the falciform ligament. Okay, the falciform ligament is first divided and followed along the antecipal surface of the liver. So left triangle ligament is divided, facilitated by here, placing a swab in front of the. Then you have to come around the section of the hilum. Okay, the possibility of the replace the right hepatic artery should be shout arising from the superior mesenteric artery. Okay, and it's lying posterior to the bile duct. Again, they are telling that point posterior to the bile duct. Okay, and then accessory left hepatic artery to the left hepatic artery. So seeing the 25% of that is of MGQ. So and the accessory left hepatic also seeing 25% of the actually here the daily from Sebastian daily wise they are giving 25%. Okay, but Sebastian value is different. Okay, and okay, then when doing dissection of the hilar bile ducts requires careful retraction on segment 4. So segment 4 you should not use the segment 4s. And this is what is the most common method used for division of the parenchyma is TUSA. Okay, Cavitron ultrasonic surgical aspirator. Cavitron ultrasonic surgical aspirator TUSA. Okay, but alternative methods are stapling, Kelly-Kleisers crushing, and aquasil. So remember, stapling, Kelly-Kleisers crushing, and aquasil. But TUSA is normally they are using. So most commonly they are using. So segmental and local dissections. So although anatomical dissection remains a treatment of choice for patient for SCC, for those with the colorectal metastasis, a parenchymal sparing surgery. Okay. Non-anatomical approach involving multiple metastectomy is now considered as a standard of care. So now parenchymal sparing non-anatomical approach. Okay, it's a standard of care. Okay, parenchymal sparing non-anatomical approach. So laparoscopic liver resection. These are the diagrams you need to see. So page number 1171. So what they are telling this for the better understand. So how to reduce the need for blood transfusion. Okay, so these are the things. First, the surgeon should know about the understanding of the segment and anatomy of the liver and a better patient selection for surgery, and the low CVP anesthesia. This is very important. The low CVP anesthesia is important, less than 10 mmHg. They will ask to reduce for the reduction of the blood transfer.
This is controlled hypotension, you know.
Controlled. Yeah. But
Okay,
CVP anesthesia, they are telling anesthesia less than 10.
Yeah. Whenever you are trying permissive hypotension, na, in anesthesia, few conditions are there. In that you will put CVP.
Okay. So for better control of the coagulation cascade has been achieved using PEG and the antifibrinolytic drugs aprotinin. Okay. The remember the drug aprotinin, and oozing from the resected liver of the remnant liver can be reduced by the topical application of a fibrin group or fibrin impregnated collagen fleece. Okay, fibrin glue and fibrin impregnated collagen fleece. And this centric is very important when you are doing Pringles maneuver. So how many minutes you have to give occlusion? 15 minutes, and followed by how many minutes you have to do reperfusion? 5 minutes. Okay, 15 minutes occlusion followed by 5 minutes reperfusion. So ablation for the liver tumor. So what is a more widely used ablative technique? There will ask. The RFA is a widely used ablative technique, but RFA will not be effective in the lesion more than 3 centimeters. Okay, so the criteria is RFA up to 3 centimeter, and the microwave ablation is for the lesion up to 5 centimeter. We can use microwave ablation. For lesion up to 3 centimeter only, we have to use RFA. Okay. Okay, then we'll see about the benign liver tumor. Okay, most common benign liver tumor is hemangioma. So hepatic adenoma known primarily between the women aged between 25 and 50 years, increase associated with OC pills, and this is generally solitary. Okay, and up to 10% develop into the hepatocellular carcinoma. Okay, in hepatic adenoma, the surgical excision is generally recommended if more than 5 centimeter increase in 5 centimeter in size. Okay, so although some lesions may regress after discontinuation of the OCP. So FNH. So let's come to the FNH. So FNH is a middle-aged female, no association with the underlying liver disease. Okay, no underlying is a solitary tumor mass. So FNH contain both hepatocytes and Kupffer cells. So what is MRI using liver-specific contrast agents such as gedostic acid, which is taken up by hepatocyte and excreted in bile. Okay, so you remember this term is a gedostic acid. Gedostic acid is taken up by hepatocyte and excreted in bile. Okay, but a super paramagnetic ion oxide, which is taken up by Kupffer cells. Okay, and may be used in determining the hepatocellular origin of FNH and allowing differentiation of FNH from the metastatic cancer. So name the liver contrast agent which is differentiating FNH from the metastasis, they will ask. Okay, number 1 is gedostic acid, and number 2 is super paramagnetic ion oxide. Okay, and the main thing is FNH does not have malignant potential. Okay, and once the diagnosis is confirmed, it does not require any treatment or follow-up. Okay. So colorectal liver metastasis. So colorectal liver metastasis, 50% chance of being alive after 5 years. Okay. Then defining resectability of for colorectal metastasis. So this actually no need. This is no need actually no need. Previously, what they considered synchronous diseases, rectal primary. Okay. And a multiple disease metastasis, the metastasis larger than 5 centimeter, disease-free survival of less than 1 year from the diagnosis of primary disease, ICA. These are considered irresectable. Okay, but nowadays these are not contraindications they are telling. Okay, what are the so what the technical contraindication to resection are related to the anatomical location of the metastasis, mainly due to close proximity to the major vascular and biliary drainage structures. Okay, the boundary of technical resectability have been extended by the development of techniques such as total vascular exclusion. So nowadays, these are also eliminated. So when the vessel is very close to the main structures like vascular, bile duct, they are also be prevented by using total vascular exclusions. Okay, so what they are telling is resection with a negative surgical margin of 1 centimeter RO has always been considered to be the gold standard. Okay, but in modern chemotherapy, era of chemotherapy, patient with the R1 microscopically negative resection have similar survival to those R0 resection. Very, very important. So in recent modern era, R1 is equal to R0 they are telling. Okay, even the process of modern chemotherapy. So FLR, you already know, you have to at least you need the FLR of 25%. Okay, 35% in the patient having chemotherapy and 45% in the patient having cirrhosis. Okay, so normal 25%, chemotherapy 35%, cirrhosis patient will need at least 45% of FLR. Okay. So FLR will be improved by using a portal vein embolization technique methods and all. And another expected MCQ is what is ALPPS. Okay, ALPPS, they will just ask the full form. This already AIMS question. Okay, in AIMS gastro examination they ask this, only the abbreviation they ask. Okay, ALPPS is associating liver partition and the portal vein ligation for staged hepatectomy. Okay, so associated liver partition and portal vein ligation for staged hepatectomy. So they are mainly using this procedure to make the FLR more. Okay, but this, in spite of this making FLR more, it having significant operative mortality 10% and morbidity more than 50%. Okay, so oncological contraindication to hepatic resection include unresectable extrahepatic malignancy. So next page, 1173. Okay, come for the chemotherapy for colorectal liver metastasis. So colorectal liver metastasis should receive perioperative chemotherapy irrespective of their initial resectability. Okay. So resectability rate after chemotherapy for initially irresectable disease widely from 6 to 60%. Okay. Then 5-year survival rate is having 50% if liver resection becomes feasible. So what chemotherapy they are using? So chemotherapy with 5-fluorouracil and folic acid. Okay, produces a responsible rate of approximately 30%. When it is combined with the oxaliplatin, the response is increased to 60. So plain 5-fluorouracil and folic acid is just giving 30%. When it is adding oxaliplatin, it increases to 60%. And again, they will adding the monoclonal antibodies for additional benefits like VEGFR, EGFR antibodies also. This is the basics about liver. Then we'll go for the hepatocellular carcinoma. The hepatocellular carcinoma, hepatitis C virus increases the risk of SCC by 17 times, primarily by promoting end-stage liver disease. Okay, so these are the causative agents, and you see pyogenic. These are the various liver table for the liver infection actually. So you see pyogenic liver infection is caused by causative agent Streptococcus miliarii. Treatment is as antibiotics, and E. coli, the main treatment is aspiration. Okay, and the Streptococcus faecalis drainage. This looks a little bit different. Okay, so we thought that it's based upon the size, everything. Many things are there, but based upon the causative agent, they are telling about the overview of the management. Okay, just remember. And the entamoeba, I think mostly will manage usually the medical treatment only, metronidazole. Okay, high-titer treatment, high-titer also initially will go with the medical, and if need, we go for resection mammoplasty. Okay, I think this table is not related to this thing, not like this. It's overview.
Yeah.
Okay, overview they tell. Okay, they just given this box. Okay, and we see what are the next. These are the staging for the hepatocellular carcinoma. This is already known. I think no need to repeat this one. Very important one. So this is a BCLC system. Okay. What are the things the BCLC is based upon? They will tell first performance staging score, Child-Pugh score. Okay, and they will depend upon the size of the tumor. Okay, size of the tumor, number of tumors. Okay, and a nodal portal invasion, nodal metastasis, everything it will depend. Okay, just remember from back. Okay, so when the PST is greater than 2, okay, and the Child-Pugh C, directly your answer is BCA, just supportive care. Okay, finished. So whenever the question given as portal invasion, N1, M1, okay, directly you go for sorafenib. Finished. Okay. PST greater than 2, Child-Pugh C, directly go for best supportive care. A portal invasion N1, M1, PST 1 to 2, they gave sorafenib. We gave the word multinodular. Okay. Then we have to go for this TACE. Okay. Then this side is very easy. Okay, first you see PST score is 0 and child put A, having a single lesion less than 2. Okay, and it's carcinoma in situ. First, if the lesion is single, we have to see about portal pressure or bilirubin. Okay, if it is normal, you can go for resection. If everything is normal, single, you can go for resection. If it's increased, you have to see the associated disease. If associated disease, the liver transplantation will be very difficult. So you will go for only radiofrequency or percutaneous ethanol injection. Okay, if associated disease is not present, then you go for liver transplantation. Okay, in early stage, that is only single nodule or 3 nodule less than 3 centimeter. Okay, single or 3 nodules less than 3 centimeter. If it is there, you can choose either single or 3 nodules less than 3 centimeter. Then you have to see the associated disease, similar only. Okay. If it is single, it can go that side. If it is 3 nodules less than 3 centimeter, directly you can see the associated diseases. Okay. So you should not forget this portal pressure or bilirubin and associated diseases in this one. Okay. Based upon this, the option will be resection or liver transplantation or radiofrequency. Okay. So next next page 1175, the preoperative evaluation of the patient with SCC. So major liver resection is possible with the CTPA disease. Minor liver resection will be possible with the CT grade B. Okay, and the CT grade C score patients are not candidate for liver resection. So this is very important. So CTP grade C score will not be a patient for liver resection. Okay. So preoperative imaging for SCC. So you have to take both MRI and CT, have limited sensitivity and specificity for detection of lesion less than 1 centimeter. Okay. So less than 1 centimeter, the sensitivity is very decreased. Although this is improved with the use of the liver-specific contrast agent. If you're using liver-specific contrast agent, you can even detect a lesion less than 1 centimeter also. Okay. Then this is recurrence after resection. Even the HCC is recurred after resection. How many percentage? 80% of cases within 5 years of resection. Okay, intrahepatic recurrence occurs in about 80% of cases within 5 years of resection. For them, what is the best treatment? Okay, so first, why it is recurring? First, you have to see. Okay, this is because of the missed micrometastasis or who developed lesions de novo in the disease background liver. Okay, for them, the recurrence is very high. Further, the best treatment is performing liver transplantation. Okay, so liver transplantation in hepatocellular carcinoma is explained by Milan's criteria. So Milan's criteria is now considered the benchmark for the indication for liver transplantation for SCC. So what is the Milan's criteria? What's Milan's criteria? Anyone can say? So single lesion less than 5 centimeter. Okay, or up to 3 lesion. Or each lesion less than 3 centimeter. Okay. This is Milan's criteria. And another criteria is UCSF criteria is there. Just see Milan criteria they are given here. One hepatocellular carcinoma less than 5 centimeter up to 3 nodules of less than 3 centimeter. Okay, this is Milan's criteria. UCSF criteria just add I think 1 point. How much you have to add for UCSF criteria? Okay.
1.5 centimeter.
1.5, no? 1.5, and you should not total should not exceed 8.5 centimeter. Adding the up to 3 nodules less than 4.5 centimeter, each nodule less than 4.5 centimeter, but total lesion should not exceed 8.5.
Okay,
like that, some value is there. Okay, so okay, it's a short, not that much MCQ.
Yeah, thank you very much. You have summarized nicely.